Welcome, everybody. Wednesday, September 6th. John Aravosis here to talk to you about the latest news from Ukraine with the Aravosis Report. Let me get live on TikTok, as always, on my iPad. And then we'll talk for a couple minutes while we wait for folks to join us, because it always takes about 2 minutes for people to get notified. We would never want to start without our Russian trolls. That would just be impolitic of us. Anyway, hello, all. Oh, introduce yourselves, where you're from while we're waiting. Hit the like button, of course, the up button, the whatever button it is. But that would be nice of you too. Anyway, hello all. Kansas. Laka, you're not in Kansas. I'm forgetting where you are, but you're not in Kansas, I think. Are you not? You're not in Kansas, are you? I'm already forgetting, but I thought you were in Europe or something. Thank you, Jonathan. Oh, anyway, hello all. Omaha. Oh, hey, Omaha. Hola, Pires, or Pires. Reyes. Hablo español y no puedo decirlo. Thank you, Elizabeth, for that. Hey, guys. Hola, Charles. Anyway, yes, we're going to wait about a minute or two, as I said, for folks to kind of arrive. Hey, I would block me. You are here at the beginning. Look at you. Hey, Pedro. Oh, my God. I'm so tired today. Hey, John. Just a warning. I made like tea and everything. Thank you, Jetta. So I've got my tea. Hey, Big Hawk, thank you for that. But we had a thunder and lightning storm here in Chicago last night. Thank you, I would block me. And the dog freaked out, as she does. But 2 hours she was awake. Thank you, B. Smith. The last half hour, and Carol as well on TikTok, thank you. The last half hour I was able to sleep finally. An hour and a half she had me up, going back and forth in the room, digging at stuff. Oh, my God. An hour and a half, I kid you not. I was awake from 5 to 6:30. I was going to kill her. Oh, it was horrible. Thank you for that, Elizabeth. What do you do? But I am so tired. So just be aware. 100. Did it hit 100 in DC today? I heard it was getting very close, like 99. Did it actually breach the 100? I'm lucky. We didn't have that in Chicago. And now Chicago's great today and going to be nice next couple days. And then by the time I get to DC, the weather's going to break too, which I'm very excited. So woo-woo. Actually, it's saying it's 70 here right now, which is insane if it's that cool in the Chicago area. I've tried a thunder shirt for my dog, never really did anything. Audio is always, I'm an idiot. The audio is bad on TikTok, of course, because I have a mic plugged in and I don't have the mic on my shirt. How's the audio now on TikTok? Oops. Thank you for saying that, though, because you reminded me. Okay, now how is my TikTok audio? Hey, Radoslav, good to see you. I totally spaced out and had the thing on my table, so that would do it. Oh, my. Anyway, excelente. Good. All right, guys, let me get rolling here. Mom's doing okay. The dog's doing okay. So, everyone's hanging in there. Thank you, Chad. I just put those slippers now because I wasn't sure what they were. It said they were new. So I was like, okay, we'll put slippers up today on TikTok for gifts. Why not? Anyway, all right, guys, let's get rolling. So, oh, my God. Yes, as I was saying at the beginning of the show, so I'm exhausted today. My dog woke me up with a thunder and lightning storm last night. Thank you, TikTok novice. So I didn't get, thank you, Barney, as well on TikTok gifts. I didn't get she woke me up for 2 hours. It was horrible. 2 hours of a panicked dog. So you're like sitting there feeling for them. Oh. Anyway, jumped into bed at 7 o'clock. I was like, sure, now that I've got an hour left, you're coming into bed. And of course, she slept all day because, dogs. Anyway, guys, hello, welcome. I will start the show. I am John Aravosis. Thank you for joining me. Thank you, Stevie Boy, for the TikTok gift. And Charles and Marcy and Elle, everyone's on TikTok today. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. So yeah, I am doing another show from Chicago. I'm doing these the next couple days, and then Monday, thank you, Ellie and JRD and Josh. Monday, I will be back in Washington, D.C. So I've been visiting Mom for the month. Thank you, Chad and Josh again. So the way the show works, anybody who's new, I go through the news for the day and try to find what I think are interesting and I was going to say illustrative. Thank you, Obi-Wan. Stories that tell you something. I try not to just give you a BS story. I mean, meaning not BS. Sometimes there's stories that matter, but it'll be stuff like, Ukraine got attacked today by so many missiles. I don't always care about that. Thank you, Crazy American. And what I mean by that is I don't know that it tells you anything. We know the Russians are attacking Ukraine every day with missiles, right? So I don't know that a general missile attack. Today, there's a particularly bad missile attack. That tells you something. It tells you something about the Russians. And so that's why we're going to talk about that. In any case, so we will be talking about the news today that I find interesting, that I think will give you a broader perspective on the war, a better sense of what's going on. And then I will take your guys' questions. The way it works, thank you, Adam. I will take your questions in the second half of the show, but as a thank you for the folks who are, donors, etc. YouTube has a way of asking questions called YouTube. I'm already forget. I'm so tired today, guys. Super chats, that they are YouTube. So if you guys do super chats on YouTube, I will always get to those as the next question I talk about. Otherwise, I will try to get to questions anyway. What I'll try to do as well for the YouTubers, I will, the green named YouTubers are the ones that are the monthly member subscribers. So for the monthly members, I'll always try to keep a special eye on you guys. You guys on TikTok, the same thing. The SNN folks are my monthly subscribers. I will always try to do a special attention to you guys if I can. Otherwise, please do keep the TikTok gifts coming, and I will always do a shout out as well for the TikTok gifts that are the ones that fly on the screen. Anything that flies on the screen, hats, stars, whatever on my face, glasses, I will always do a shout out if I see it. If I'm in the middle of reading something and miss it, I apologize. All right, guys, let's get rolling. So today is day 560 of Vladimir Putin's 3-day special military operation in Ukraine. I am John Aravosis, coming to you live from Chicago for a few more days, and then I'm back to Washington, D.C., where I'm from here, from Chicago, but I live in Washington, D.C. now, so we'll be back there. So the first big story, really nasty, is Russia today attacked a town in eastern Ukraine. Oh, I'm going to try to show you more or less on the map, if I recall this correctly. The town's called Kostiantynivka. And thank you, Ali, for that. It is, as I recall, more or less around here. It's kind of just west of Bakhmut, where that fighting was going on in Bakhmut. So I think, as I recall on the map, it should be around here. So again, way eastern Ukraine. And the Russians bombed a market. They bombed a market, a pharmacy, and a shop. And actually, they bombed a number of shops in the market. The market, actually, I was just reading before I came on with you guys. It was one of these markets that has like a lot of different stands and things. So there's a lot of different little shops there. The Russians killed 17 Ukrainian civilians, including one child. There are 32 Ukrainian civilians injured. The attack was at 2 p.m., 1400 hours, so 2 o'clock in the afternoon. They hit the market when they knew it was going to be full of people. What else have I got here? The market was it's sort of peak time. It's a maze of small stores selling vegetables, local honey, and hardware. Kebab and coffee shops line the streets. Now, the reason this story, thank you, Dedike, I'm mentioning it, not just because it's horrific. And I think occasionally when the Russians do, and it is a war crime, of course, but when the Russians do particularly horrific war crimes, they should be called out. But it also tells us something about the Russians. JT is saying could have been by mistake. It could have been by mistake. But the problem with the Russians is the Russians have long been known to have a strategy of killing civilians on purpose, okay? Typically, right, you'd have to go back to like the Vietnam War or World War II, right? And even in World War II, right, it's questionable, right? In World War II, we're still debating, right, whether the bomb was necessary, right? This kind of stuff. But at least it's a solid argument. Both sides have very good arguments for why the bomb shouldn't have been used and the bomb should have been used. In Russia's case, first of all, it's not 1945. It's not 1963. It's 2023. The Russians still have a policy of killing civilians as strategy. They kill civilians on purpose. Thank you, Dora. They kill civilians in order to basically make the country succumb and give up. They did it in Syria, and they're doing it in Ukraine. As you know, last winter, they tried to literally freeze the Ukrainians to death and starve them to death. I'm sure they're going to be doing the same thing this winter as well. They steal children, right? They have been bombing civilian areas, civilian hospitals. Civilian hospitals. The numbers, I'm forgetting the latest number of healthcare facilities that the Russians, thank you, Nicola, that the Russians have bombed since the war started. And this is also part of the Russian strategy. If you bomb hospitals and eliminate them, then when you kill the civilians, any civilians who survive will die because they can't go to the hospital. Okay, folks, again, I'm telling you this story because it tells you something about the Russian psyche. Thank you, Pishka. or is it Pishka or somebody else who brought that? I'm looking at it was Pishka. Thank you, Pishka, for that. And Marcy for the shoes. It tells you something about the Russian psyche. And as I said, this is something no developed country does. Thank you, Kemi. People can point to a couple incidences of U.S. troops intentionally killing civilians in Iraq. And guess what? Those people, those U.S. soldiers, got into serious trouble for it. And people back home in the States were outraged. The Russians, from the top down, they are told, kill civilians. It is the way you win the war. Nobody else does that. Nobody else among civilized countries does that except the Russians. Keep that in mind. And I just saw somebody who claimed that's war. It's called war. Ask any of the military folks with us today, and they will tell you in way stronger terms than I will that is the last thing that a civilized military does in wartime. They do not target civilians on purpose. They absolutely do not. And it's funny because, as I said, I've been most surprised. It's really been interesting to me, actually, because it's the soldiers who are the ones that are most outraged in the West when you tell them about this and they go, no, 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 you do not do that. So, really just too much. I see you've already got some nice trolls today, TikTok mods. Hey, we try to keep it fun for you. The Ukrainian, so yes, we got that. Romania admits finding drone parts. Okay, this was kind of funny and not funny. I told you guys yesterday, and by the way, I was right, it looks like, but we were talking yesterday and the day before, I think as well, about whether Russia, 2 of its drones crashed in Romania, a NATO country. And the issue was that the Russians, as part of their ongoing war crimes, literally war crimes, have been trying to starve Ukrainians, but also starve people around the world, especially in developing countries, because part of the Russian strategy is to create famine in Africa, in the Middle East, in order to put pressure on the West, because they know, the Russians know that they're happy to starve people in the Middle East and Africa. We're not. That if push came to shove, we would cave. We would say, oh my God, don't do it. We'd be the good guys. All of us in the West would be the good guys. The Russians wouldn't. So that's the first thing they're doing. Secondly, they're trying to cause starvation, mass starvation in Africa and the Middle East because, again, civilians, right? Thank you, B. Smith and Darian, and Tommy. The Russians use civilians as props. They want to cause famine among civilians in North Africa and the Middle East in order to force those people to become refugees, to flee their countries. And where will they go from the Middle East or North Africa? They will cross the water. They'll go to Turkey by land. They'll go to Italy. They'll go to Greece and cause more tensions in the societies surrounding immigration. They're using, again, the civilians as weapons. In any case, what happened here was, as part of Russia's ongoing campaign to use civilians as weapons, they have been bombing Ukrainian grain infrastructure. They've been going after in Odessa, but also down here at Ismail and is it Reni, I think, the other town here, right on the Ukrainian border with Romania. And they're basically bombing ports that are used to put grain and other agricultural products on ships that get sent around the world. So the Russians, in addition to threatening the ships, are now just blowing up the grain itself, blowing up the ports, because if you don't have ports, how do you put the grain on the ships, right? So what the Russians are doing, they've been particularly bombing a port down here. I think it's this one over here called Ismail in Ukraine. This is the Danube River, if I'm correct on my map. This is the Danube River, right across the Danube. Thank you, Aiden. Right across and Mags as well. Thank you for that. Right across the Danube is Romania. So when the Russians have been bombing the Ukrainian city right here, they are literally a couple hundred feet away from bombing Romania, which is a NATO ally. Well, the Russians have been warned. They were warned before to stop doing this because they're literally threatening a NATO ally. And what do you know? A night or two ago, thank you, Laurie, 2 drones fall, explosion. The Ukrainians say the drones fell in Romania. The Romanians go, no, they didn't. And I told you guys about this yesterday. There were 2 weird statements. The first statement from the Romanians was a non-denial denial, we call it in politics, where basically you say I didn't, you basically deny it, but your words don't deny it. So what the Romanians did is they said there was like no serious threat to Romanian sovereignty. And you're reading it going, serious threat. Was there a less serious threat? Like, okay, they didn't say. Then the Romanian president came out and said, no drone hit our territory. It did not happen. Because the Ukrainians were saying it happened. It absolutely happened. Okay. They said, no, it's not happening. So what happens now? The Ukrainians release a photo of the explosion. They may have released a video too, but I saw the photo, a photo of the explosion happening. Thank you, Pam K. And observers were able to geolocate, thank you, Suzanne, geolocate that photo in Romania. These guys are scary what they're able to do. I have watched some of these guys online and what they're able to do, and I think some of these guys have photographic memories. They will look at a photo. Thank you, Pam and Big Hawk. They will look at a photo and they will look at the shrubbery, the bushes, the trees, and they'll say, that reminds me of Guinea in Africa, or some crazy, Guinea is, I'm always forgetting where Guinea is, some obscure country they will recognize and pinpoint. Well, these guys got on it and they looked at it and they said, this is Romania. They found the exact spot. Well, what happens today? The Romanians announce, we did in fact discover remnants of what looked to be a drone that hit Romanian territory recently. They are still finding out, right? But they were livid. They said elements from a Russian drone appear to have been confirmed to have hit Romanian territory. The quote from the Romanian government was, it would be a serious violation of Romanian sovereignty if the Russians in fact did this. Now, a couple things here. For anybody who says, oh my God, should we be worried? No, because NATO will do nothing in response. And that's the problem here. The issue here is, of course, we don't want war with Russia, but you don't let Russia get away with murder, so to speak. And we've been letting Russia get away with so many war crimes, including the attacks on grain. We don't do anything in response. We've been giving Ukraine weapons, not enough weapons, not all the weapons they need. But one thing in particular that I faulted our policy with regards to, I think, NATO overall with Ukraine is there's no tit for tat. There's no quid pro quo, meaning when the Russians do something really bad, we don't respond and go, okay, you did something really bad. Well, now we're going to do something really bad, meaning we're going to make you pay for it. And in this case, you say, okay, we warned you about hitting NATO territory. You hit NATO territory. So what we're going to do is now we are going to give Ukraine some of the weapon systems that you didn't want us to give Ukraine, and we weren't going to give them. We weren't going to give them ATACMS, which are the longer range missiles for the HIMARS system. Ukraine's been wanting them. The defense experts have been saying Ukraine needs to get them. And we have been, in the US have been saying no. Because you did this, because you now attacked NATO territory, and you can't say it was a mistake because you were warned about this because you were so close to hitting NATO and you just kept doing it anyway. We are now going to give Ukraine this weapon. And the next time you do a war crime, we're going to do the same thing. But the point is, we do have an option short of going nuclear in making the Russians pay. And Putin never pays for anything. I mean, sure, he's paid for invading, okay? We have helped Ukraine. But in terms of the incremental bad stuff Putin does, sorry, I've got my chapstick in my hand. The incremental bad stuff Putin does, we never, I mean, honestly, treat them like children, right? Treat them like your pet, right? If you do bad, you're going to be punished. And if you do good, maybe you won't be punished. But there's no way to sort of stop this otherwise. Absolutely no way to stop this. Very upsetting anyway. So that's what's up with that. But basically, it looks like the Ukrainians were correct. Thank you, NJ Patman. It looks like the Ukrainians were absolutely correct, which is what I suspected from the beginning, because as I said, typically Ukraine certainly doesn't lie, and typically Ukraine doesn't get it wrong. It looks like they got it wrong about the Polish one. Remember when they thought the Russians had hit Poland, but releasing the photo and everything, in any case. All right, CNN. So CNN had a nice counteroffensive update that I wanted to read you guys. There's no specific update. Thank you, Tugas. I will say that we had some progress about a week ago. Now it's getting into the nitty gritty again. Okay. Ukraine is moving a small amount each day. And I would say the daily updates are not sufficiently broad to give you guys any insight into what's going on. It's very specific stuff and they're not moving much. Okay. So generally speaking, there hasn't been a big change in the counteroffensive, which is, Ukraine's big pushback. Just to remind folks, the big counteroffensive for Ukraine right now is over here in Zaporizhia. Okay. There's always been some fighting around here, south of the river, small, but some fighting. This is the big fighting. There's also decent fighting going on here, a little bit further east. You've got Bakhmut up here. where the Ukrainians are trying to take that town back. And then further up north, you've got Kupiansk, where the Russians have a lot of troops trying to take that town to move further east, right? And the Russians have been slowly making progress up there, which is certainly of concern. Here was CNN's overall update, which I thought was very interesting because it gave you a good sense of where the Ukrainians are and what's coming next, okay? Oh, Angel's getting their wings. Give me some wings, folks. Give me some wings. There we go. Oh, thank you, Sean, for that. All right. Some wings. We got wings. All right, listen to this. The slowness of Ukraine's counteroffensive can in part be attributed to the strength of Russia's defensive fortifications on the southern front, which we know. But Ukrainian officials are cautiously optimistic that the subsequent lines of defense may be easier to penetrate than the first one, which were shrouded by dense minefields. Having breached the first line of Russia's defenses and reclaimed some pockets of territories in the south, the Ukrainian military hopes that gains can begin to come more swiftly as the density of minefields is less than the previous Russian defensive line. And Ukrainian units, so first of all, the density of mines, the number of mines per foot or per meter or whatever, are fewer. Not per foot, but you get it. The number of mines per unit of land are fewer, which is good. But the Ukrainians are reminding us repeatedly, and they did it again with this update, that there are still a ton of mines. Thank you, Tired Rabbit. Oh, that's cool. Actually, that's a very nice one. Thank you. There are still a ton of mines the Ukrainians need to get rid of, but it looks to be less than before, which is good. The second thing helping Ukrainian units, this came from the Ukrainian Defense Ministry saying this, that Ukrainian units will benefit from the fact that the network of trenches, dugouts, and overlaps there is not as strong as on the front line. So they're also saying that the trench network and everything else that the Russians had isn't as good as the initial one that was out there. So, you know, the hope is, well, basically, Ukraine got through the really hard stuff. There's still hard stuff ahead, but if the initial stuff was this, the next level is this. It's easier, even though it isn't easy. There you go. But that's kind of where they are right now. Quick sip of tea. I'm doing pretty good. Not yawning yet. Not yawning yet. So, Jason, you are one step away from being blocked, and I'm warning you on TikTok. Deb, keep an eye on him. Yeah, thank you. So let's talk really quick about how you guys can help my work. I always hate doing this, but it's necessary. I do this full time. I've been doing it since the war broke out. I think like early March, actually, of 2022, I started doing my daily show. And I decided to do it full time. Thank you, Marie, because my background is in, actually, I never kind of gave you guys this talk, but I don't want to make it too long. My background has been using the internet for politics. I started doing this back in 1995. When I'm, yes, I'm older than I look, or I hope I'm older than I look. Thank you, Sean, for that. 1995, I started developing the online advocacy network for an organization I worked for at the time called the Children's Defense Fund. And it's an American charity, a nonprofit, an NGO that works on child poverty issues. And I thought the internet was so cool. Thank you, Mandashi. If you got a question, feel free to post it, of course. I just thought the internet sounded so interesting in 1995 that I said, we should use this to organize people. Anyway, I did. I became one of the top guys in the US doing this early on, and I've been doing it since then. And I'm very good at sort of organizing people and getting messages out there and all this kind of stuff online, for people. And I wanted to see if I could do it for Ukraine because I cared about what was going on. I have studied international relations for my education in addition to law at Georgetown. I did a master's in foreign service international relations degree. And I have always had, how do I put this nicely? I'm trying to put this nicely for YouTube and TikTok. I have always had serious concerns about Russian foreign policy. Let's put it that way, okay? Back to their Soviet days, when I studied Russia, it was Soviet foreign policy I studied because the Soviet Union was still around when I was in graduate school. And I have always had concerns about them. And the new Russia under Putin reminds me exactly of the Soviet Union in many ways, other than they're not as strong as the Soviets, but they are just as evil as the Soviets were. Long story short, they invaded, and I thought, this is really, frankly, pissing me off, and I want to see if I can help. So I've been doing this full time since then. You guys have been very graciously giving me the gifts on this system, on TikTok and YouTube and elsewhere, or Twitch. I've also got some memberships set up that you can do on TikTok and YouTube. There's a membership thing. You guys can ask the mods about that. And I've been able to make enough money to pay my bills for a year and a half now, which has been amazing. So thank you guys. But that's why I hit you up for support is because I do this full time. This is my job. And I'm not doing any of my normal consulting I would do so that I can do this full time. Oh, thank you, Velika. Belika, thank you for that. I'm not going to say your whole name because after, well, I could look. Belika Shishka Vredi. Okay, I'm really hoping I haven't said something obscene in Ukrainian, but thank you for the hearts. I studied Russian for a year, but I don't know much of it. So I can read the language, Ukrainian and Russian, but I don't quite know what I'm saying. Thank you, Maverick, for that. And Scott. Anyway, that's why I hit you guys up because I do this full time and, I need the support to keep going. So thank you guys for that. I appreciate that. And Mundashi, like I said, if you do have a question, okay, there you go. And Andre, thank you for the super sticker. Okay, Mundashi had a super chat question. Keep up the good work. Thank you. Plan to auction your daily notes or collect them in a journal of the chronology of the war. That's really interesting. The thing that I've done, it's maybe it's stupid of me. It probably is stupid of me. I come up with my notes for each show, right? And I sort of write, you guys can even see sort of the different topics. President Zelensky meets with the Danish prime minister. And I put a lot of the content, but a lot of it I know from reading so that I kind of ad lib. I have been each day erasing the notes and doing the same file. I just erase it and I start again. And then I crumple this up and I throw it out. So I don't have my notes. We'd have to talk about that. That's kind of funny. I never thought people would want them. Now, the best of lines from the trolls, that's interesting. We do have, I forgot who was doing it. One of the mods was, I'm forgetting, was it Flower Lady? Who was it? One of you that was collecting the crazy lines from the trolls because they're always like goofy English. And I don't remember who it was. Any case, but interesting idea. Thank you for that. I don't know. Let me think about that. I'd have to start saving these things though. All right, guys, back to the show. So President Zelensky today met with Danish Prime Minister Frederiksen just hours after holding talks with U.S. Secretary of State, who is our foreign secretary, basically, Antony Blinken. The U.S. announced a new $175 million military aid package today that includes depleted uranium shells. This is part of a larger $1 billion aid package that this is part of a larger $1 billion aid package that also includes humanitarian aid and budgetary assistance. So the U.S. promised another $1 billion today. 175 million of it is military aid. A little more on the depleted uranium. So what we had done was last week, I'd mentioned to you guys that the U.S. was looking at was basically going to provide, the story was U.S. was going to provide depleted uranium shells to Ukraine. And a little background on what they are. So they're uranium, but they're uranium that's been spent, so to speak, that's been depleted. I mean, literally, that's the name, depleted uranium, meaning it's only slightly radioactive. And I mean, I'm not saying that in a funny way. You can handle the shell and you're fine, right? The problem can be if when the shell explodes, the dust cloud from it, you want to be careful not to inhale stuff like that. Having said that, even the United Nations investigated and said there aren't really any serious problems with using this. Some of the advocates are not happy about it. Okay. Yep. I will get to that in a second, Daniel. That was going to be my other topic anyway, but let me finish depleted uranium first. So let me read you a little bit about depleted uranium. And I think this might've been from CNN. I'm not sure. I should have written that down. This was from CNN. Yes, this was from CNN. The munitions can be fired from US-made Abrams tanks that are set to arrive in Ukraine this fall. The munitions can pierce armored plates like those found on tanks because they are made of a highly dense metal, a byproduct from fuel production for nuclear power plants. Depleted uranium rounds are nearly 70% denser than lead, which is the metal used in standard rounds of ammunition. So the idea here, Murd just said tank killers. Exactly. The idea here is you got a nuclear plant, uses uranium, the after product is super dense, meaning it's like a black hole is dense, right? So by dense, we mean a lot of material packed into a small area. That makes something typically very heavy and it makes it very strong. So this ends up being a material that is much stronger than normal rounds that you might use, for example, to shoot at a tank. A normal round that goes at a tank, the tank might have armor to deflect it, right? This kind of stuff. Well, depleted uranium is so strong that it is able to cut through a tank and literally, from what I've read, and you guys would know better, some of the military folks, it literally can penetrate into the tank and go through the tank and I think even out the back. But what it does, I mean, it's very vicious, but we are talking about weapons here. What it does is it goes through and catches on fire. So it literally starts a fire along the entire path. It's deadly to anybody who's inside the tank and obviously deadly to the tank itself, so to speak. So again, it's gruesome, but we're talking bullets for killing people. I mean, that's what war is. So, that's what it is. But that's why they're so in demand. The US has used them for years. The Russians have used them for years because the Russians were complaining about the Brits having given similar weapons to the Ukrainians months ago, and the Russians have been using them themselves. So it's just like, give me a break. Anyway, that's what depleted uranium is. This was kind of a funny little bit of the story, though. So later on, there were some photos tonight of Blinken, the U.S. Secretary of State, our foreign secretary, and President Zelensky's guy, I think it's Kuleba is his name, the Ukrainian foreign minister, and they went out to dinner, at McDonald's. And there's a great picture of them sitting in McDonald's with fries talking because they had previously talked about McDonald's coming back to Kyiv, because you know how everybody left Kyiv at the beginning of the war. All the businesses, thank you, 863 Tom, the foreign businesses especially were worried, right? So McDonald's came back, and our guy, Blinken, and the Ukrainians guy, Kuleba, had talked previously and said, next time I'm back in Ukraine, we got to go to McDonald's to sort of celebrate the symbolism of American businesses coming back. So they went to McDonald's tonight and had dinner in Kyiv, which again, I think is just fabulous. Thank you, A63. Also, when you think about it, the image of them having dinner in a fancy restaurant in the middle of a war would not sit well. You know what I mean? So I think also for the optics of it, as we call it in politics, the look of it, it's a better look anyway. But I thought it was I love that going to McDonald's. Again, as an American, it makes me laugh. Europeans might be like, McDonald's, but although I frankly love McDonald's. I try not to go because it's fattening, but fries and a quarter pounder, and I'm ecstatic at McDonald's. Anyway, that made me laugh. What else we got here? Yeah, so Daniel had a question, which I was actually going to get to next. Perfect. Yeah, good. I kid you not, Daniel, it's next on the list. So thank you for the donation. So Daniel's super chat question is, I read a BBC article that the UK may be declaring the Wagner Group a terrorist organization. Will the United States and other NATO countries follow? So Daniel is correct. The Brits, and I don't understand how legislatively things work in Britain. Okay, thank you, Cliff. I don't understand how things work in the UK in terms of the legislation, but they are in the process of outlawing the Wagner Group as a terrorist organization. Now, certain prescription offenses, this is from Sky News. A draft order will be laid in Parliament on Wednesday, which will make it illegal to be a member of or support the Russian group in the UK. Certain prescription offenses can be punishable by up to 14 years in jail. As part of the order, Wagner's assets can be categorized as terrorist property and seized. Now, what this means is, the Wagner Group, you guys will recall, is the mercenary group, the soldiers for hire that were fighting in Ukraine, but they're also fighting, they're Russian. They were fighting for Russia they still are in Africa, in the Middle East, in Syria, and they were being used by Putin in Ukraine. But what happened? The leader of the Wagner Group, Yevgeny Prigozhin, who used to be a friend of Putin's, now he's dead, turned on Putin and decided to attack Moscow, and he was going to take over the defense ministry, remember? And Putin had to negotiate with him to step down, and then Putin, we believe, finally blew him up in a plane about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago now, whenever it was, 2 weeks ago. That's the Wagner Group. Now, they are one of Russia's best fighting men. They are also brutal killers and war criminals. So that is, I don't know, I'd be curious as to the specific allegation the Brits are using to declare them terrorist. I mean, I'm curious whether there was some particular crime in Africa or something like that. But nonetheless, they are war criminals, yes. But they're also very good at what they do, but they're war criminals. So what I was going to say on this is, yeah, this was it. The question arose. Oh, okay, I'm gonna highlight your question there, Cliff. So I've got it saved. The question arose as to if the Wagner Group is designated a terrorist organization and Putin continues to pay them, then is Russia an official state sponsor of terror? And they would be, right? Now you get into some legal questions there because the Wagner Group may no longer exist, right? Putin has been having the Wagner guys sign up now with the Russian Ministry of Defense. So now they no longer will work for a separate company, which was Prigozhin's company. They will be working literally for the Russian Ministry of Defense. So as a lawyer, I would say, are they still the Wagner Group, right? Because now they're Russian soldiers. I don't know. It's an interesting question. Now, would the US and other NATO countries follow? Maybe. The only reason I say maybe is because, thank you, Obi-Wan. The US has been very careful. Okay, look, Biden from the beginning, I think, is trying to make sure that there's a diplomatic way out of this war. I disagree with his strategy, but I think what's going on with Biden is, thank you, Shimmer, is he thinks that if he is, and Martin as well, if he is too critical of Putin, if he demonizes Putin, in other words, if he gave a Ronald Reagan speech about Putin and said Russia is the evil empire, right? Thank you, Mike, right? They're trying to take over the world, blah, blah, blah. Thank you, Timothy. If Biden gives a speech like that, this is just my analysis, but I think I'm right. Biden believes that he will have so demonized, and thank you, Mike, I think I thank you, Mike. He will have so demonized Putin, and thank you, Anna, that he can't step back from it, right? If you say Russia's the evil empire, if you say Putin's a war criminal, if you say we must, we must win in Ukraine, then anything short of winning, you can't step back. Now, I think you can, frankly, but nonetheless, Biden, I think, has been very careful. Thus, Biden has also not wanted to put Putin in a corner by claiming that Russia is an official state sponsor of terror. Thank you, M. Polar. The question came up before, actually, about this months ago. And people were asking, why are you not declaring Russia a state sponsor of terror, right? And the Biden administration was like, and I thought I read at the time just that they were worried that it put Russia into a corner and would make it, first of all, it would escalate things and make Putin angry because, the big sin of this administration is we don't want to give Putin heartburn. That would just be horrible, right? But it's also this notion that, again, I just don't agree with this, that, if you demonize somebody so much and you put him into a corner, then he can't ever back out of the corner. And then Putin will never be able to save face. And sorry, my hair, I'm going to do my hair again. I just got a haircut yesterday and it's still dry. You know how like that first week, your hair drives you crazy? My hair is in driving me crazy mode. I will leave it alone, but just so you know, that first week of haircut where it's just especially curly Greek hair, it just does stuff. So drives me, everybody else loves it, drives me insane, but I'm okay. So that's what's going on with that. So would the U.S. follow suit? I think the U.S. would be worried that if we declared Wagner Group a terrorist group, we would be worried that we would have to declare Russia a state sponsor of terror, and that would put Putin in a box and make him angry and make it harder for us to negotiate with him in the end, blah, blah, blah. So that's my thought on that. The rest of Europe, I think, would probably be more likely to follow suit. I may be wrong. Let's see. But I think the rest of Europe would certainly be more likely to do it, whereas the U.S. would not. I'd be curious, what do the Europeans think? Annie, I've got yours saved up as well. I'm going to do Cliff's first. But Cheryl, thank you for that. I always love that one. That's a really neat one. I mean, it's a very generous gift too, but it's a really cool one. I don't know, Jackie. Jackie, does this hesitancy come from Biden or the U.S. more generally? I mean, traditionally, Republicans would not have that hesitancy. Okay, that's why I say Ronald Reagan. Traditionally, it would be the Republicans that are happy to go in and go boom to somebody we're fighting. And then if you got to negotiate later, you negotiate, right? Biden has got this weird, and I think it is typically it's the ear of people who are into diplomacy who say, oh, don't say nasty words because then you'll make the other guy angry and this kind of stuff. I guess because also what I've watched in politics, actually my politics, when I'm doing it, I've done a lot of advocacy campaigns over the years as well, very effective ones at the national level, international level too. Barilla Pasta, not very happy with me, by the way, years ago. I launched this whole campaign going after Barilla Pasta because of this anti-gay statement they made about 10 years ago. If you heard about it because quite literally I did it, but caused this whole blow up about Barilla Pasta. I was bringing this up because, yeah, the way I was taught to do politics is to just pummel and pummel and pummel. And you beat the other guy to smithereens, and then you reach a deal. When you need to reach a deal, you reach a deal. And look, no hard feelings, right? It's my job in politics to win and to beat you up. And at the end, if we can agree, great. And when I worked in the U.S. Senate, I used to work for a senator years ago. When I first started in politics, thank you, Chad. I actually worked for Republican Senator Ted Stevens of Alaska. I spent a lot of time in Alaska, very cool state. And one of the things Stevens and McCain would do, John McCain, which is fascinating, right? Famous American politician, John McCain, both Republicans. And they would sit there. They were both on the Commerce Committee together. And they would sit there. And I remember one hearing in particular, they were screaming at each other, red-faced, screaming at each other. And like we, the staffers, are sitting behind them. They're kind of going, oh, crap. Right? Like, this is terrifying. Well, what happens? They get up and Stephen's like, come on. Like, he was always kind of a jerk, frankly. He goes, come on. And I'm following him, and McCain leaves too. And what happens? We get through the door. They've now shut the door. So now we're no longer in the hearing. The hearing is where the public is watching on TV, right? The public is no longer watching. And McCain and Stevens, who were screaming at each other, red-faced, they turn, they both start laughing, and they put their arms around each other. They were like doing it for show. And I mean, to me, that wasn't hypocrisy. It was the fact that, you can beat people up in politics and then later say, okay, now we need to reach a deal. And I think some people think you better be nice because you'll never be able to reach a deal. I think they're wrong, but they're not crazy to think that. I just think they're wrong. So anyway, that was my long story, but the John McCain thing just cracked me up because McCain would be so nasty and Stevens would just get so angry, pound the table, and they'd like Khrushchev, and then they'd walk out and start laughing. And literally we were both, the staffer and I were like, oh my God, because both of us figured they were going to kill each other. It was fascinating. All right, Cliff had two questions. The third Challenger tank, I don't think that's not true, Cliff, is it? The third Challenger tank in history was destroyed in Ukraine due to a Russian artillery strike. Okay, I had read that was the first. So I don't know about that, unless something popped up today that I didn't see, but just so you know. The lack of blowout panels was the cause. Can Ukraine retrofit the rest to protect the Challengers? I do not know. That is way above my pay grade. Does anybody know if, in fact, that was the thing? Now, mind you, initially, okay, Callum is in the UK, and Callum is former British military as of 2 months ago. Callum says it is the first. Now, Callum, his question, though, is if it was blown out by artillery. Now, what I had read, though, was at least initially they thought it hit a mine, and then it got stuck. The crew survived, which is why our machines are so much better than the Russians. Their crews don't survive. Our crew survived, or the Ukrainian crew. Thank you, BSACs. And then when they got out, because it was stuck in the open, it either got hit by a drone or artillery, like you said. So, Callum, I'm sorry, you were saying whether, if in fact that was the problem, the lack of blowout panels, could they be retrofitted? And I think Callum said they could. Yes. Yes. He says they can. Yes. Dagger says, yes, they could and will make it heavier, though. Just like no Su-30 strapped to U.S. warships. Okay, I'm not sure what you mean by that. It's only the second. Okay, Desi Lee is saying second. Callum knows these things, though, I got to tell you. But Callum is saying, yes, you can fit blowout panels. So, yes, you can. Okay. Again, that kind of stuff, I don't know that. I mean, I'm a foreign policy guy, not a defense guy, but that's good to know. Orc Hunter is saying first Challenger was friendly fire in Iraq. Second in Ukraine, no third tank. Oh, okay. That could be. Now, that could be true. Because if a friendly fire means you attacked your own crew by accident, right? So if the Brits attacked another Brit tank by accident, you would not consider that to be, a tank destroyed in battle by the enemy, because that doesn't mean the enemy is capable of destroying it. They don't have your weapons. You know what I mean? So I would, yeah, in any case. Or US versus UK. Okay. I was hoping they did it and we didn't do it. But that's interesting. Okay. Okay, that's interesting. So there you go. That's the first question, Cliff. Second question from Cliff. is in northern Germany, I did see this, a Russian man viciously attacked a group of Ukrainian children. He threw a 10-year-old from a bridge in the river and then tried to kill him by throwing an object at him. Yes, I have not seen any reports since then. That was a couple of days ago. The police had the description. He was well, they believe Russian, between the ages of 40 and 45. And basically, he saw a group of children playing, like 10-year-old kids, and they were speaking Ukrainian, and he got upset that this is in Germany. He was upset they were speaking Ukrainian and said, speak Russian. And the kids obviously probably told him to go screw himself. Grabbed some little girl by the hair, and then the little boy, he picked the little boy up and threw him off the bridge into the water, and then picked up a bottle and as he's doing this, the boy hit his head and his leg on the bridge, picked up a bottle and threw the bottle that I think hit the kid as well. I mean, really horrific. Caldrogo says they're still investigating the manhunt. And Tulakivi says the manhunt is still going on. Okay. So yeah, they're still, because we had not heard anything in the last couple of days about it. And again, we are assuming it is a Russian, because who else is going to hear Ukrainian in Germany and recognize it, as Ukrainian, and not just think it's Russian, frankly, because to our ears, the languages can sound very similar. I mean, to me, Ukrainian sounds like Russian I can't understand. I only know a little Russian, but when I hear Russian, I can hear the words. Like I can hear a lot of words I don't know in Russian, but I can hear the words and repeat them. In Ukrainian, I'm hearing words and I go, I can't understand what words they just said. But a general German is not going to know, oh, that's Ukrainian, that's not Russian. And a German is especially not going to go, now that I know that's Ukrainian, you should be speaking Russian instead. That's just not going to be the case. It's just not going to be the case. Anyway. All right. So there you go, Cliff. And there was Annie. Hey, Annie. Thought I read that the sanctions were severely impacting the Russian economy. Thank you, boy mom. Thought the ruble was really in the ditch. It has been actually 6 or 9 months now. It's been going down. It's not doing well. If true, this has to have everyday Russians up in arms. I have not seen a big analysis in the last month or two on this. We talked about this before. Some of the best analysis on this is coming from some economists at Yale. They said months ago that the sanctions were having a way bigger impact than people realize, and that basically it's just going to take time. Then you see stories saying the Russians are finding ways around the sanctions, right? By selling, even now we find out they're selling, thank you, Bonnie. They're selling some of the, was it oil or what that they were selling to, or no, liquefied natural gas, I think. Was it LNG that they were selling to Europe and, stuff like this. And certainly selling things to India and China, their fuel and stuff like this, and the grain as well. So I don't think we've got enough of a sense of what is going on with the Russian economy and with the Russian consumer. Because I agree with you. I mean, one thing you'd think we would know is we've still got embassy staff there. I mean, they go to stores, they talk to people, right? Wouldn't they notice if prices are going crazy? Wouldn't they notice if they're having shortages? Wouldn't they notice if consumers are getting more and more upset, if local movie theaters are shutting? Now, last year, there were a lot of local movie theaters shutting down and things like that. Russia, that was like one of the early indicators of problems. We know spare parts is a problem across the board. We know spare parts is a big problem for Russian planes. We know semiconductors are a problem, but the Chinese have been trying to fill the gap with their kind of not very good semiconductor chips. But I don't know, Annie. I've not seen anything definitive. And I guess to me, I'm curious as to why we don't see anything definitive. You know what I mean? Like why there isn't more. I mean, either it's not having an impact or it really is, but it's very subtle. And we're seeing, put it this way. I doubt there's no impact. There's no way for it to have no impact, right? There's no way. My background, best way, sorry, but Greg was asking what's my background, which is a good question. On TikTok, go and click the link in my profile that says Linktree. And one of the things I link to is my LinkedIn. And you guys can you can see literally it's all there. So go check it out. Greek American. Oh, if you mean that background, I thought you meant my work. My work background is all there. My personal background is Greek American. Yes. All right, the last of my tea. Well, my tea has been working. I have not been yawning, even though my dog had me up for 2 hours last night. So Annie, there you go. Yeah, but I agree with you. You'd think now, having said that, our last comment from Annie was you'd think the Russians would be up in arms. Thank you, WNH. Um, you know, the Russians don't really get up in arms. I mean, they do, but I don't claim to understand the Russian people because they've put up for a long time with really bad government. I'm talking hundreds of years they put up with dictatorial governments. So I don't know, you know, um, it's hard to say. Having said that, Putin is clearly afraid of the people. He's clearly afraid. So, you know, my background behind me, the background behind me is Mom's house. And Mom's house was built in the 1940s. So this paneling's been there since at least the 1960s. But I kind of grew up with it and I like it. It's warm, and the rest of the house is modern, but this part always makes me feel warm and fuzzy. I like the darkness of it. It gives you, like, when you're in the room, it's kind of cozy, if that's what you meant. All right. The last thing I was going to mention is Germany, the Netherlands, and Denmark are in talks over the joint procurement of ammunition for Ukraine as the nations scramble to fill the gaps in order to supply Ukraine. So just a thing to mention. But Germany, Netherlands, and Denmark are working on trying to give more ammo across the board, which is nice of them. So there you go. All right, guys. Ready to do Q&A. I'm not going to show you any auction items tonight because our auction items are done for the day. Basically we've got Discord, a Discord community. It's free, but you can become a member to support my work. But our Discord community, which is discord.aravosis.com, is basically a cool place. We hang out, we talk politics, we talk Ukraine, we talk other stuff too. People talk about their cars, to kind of depending what you want, Trump, the election, whatever. And one of the things I do there is we have auctions, and I auction off a lot of cool stuff that I get from Ukraine, people get from Ukraine, send to me, and but it's almost always Ukrainian stuff for now. And we auction it off to benefit Ukraine and to benefit me. Thank you, Bonnie. 50% of it goes to support my work because, as I said, I do this full time. So in order to be able to do this full time, I've got to have income from something. So the auctions help for that. But 50% of the auction money I send back to Ukraine. So we've already sent, of the auction money, we've sent over $10,000 back to Ukraine. Overall, we've raised $100,000 for Ukraine, but that's direct fundraising. We've done a lot of fundraising just directly for Ukraine where there's a need. I ask you guys for help. You guys pitch in and we send it. 100% goes. This is different. This is doing a fundraiser. Yeah. What's going on in Maui? It's burning. I'm hoping it's not burning anymore, but I don't necessarily talk about that because this is a show about Ukraine. So, but I'm sure you can find shows about Maui if you're interested. Thank you, Courtney. I appreciate that. All right, guys. So anyway, do check out our Discord. It's fun. And like I said, it's a nice community. The auctions are done for today because they end every Wednesday. I will hopefully put up more tomorrow. I've actually got to go pick the items. But as I've told you guys before, starting next week when I'm back in DC, starting next Wednesday, I have very cool auction items. I've got large pieces of Russian fighter jets. I've got a lot of cool stuff. So that will be starting next week over on our Discord. So definitely go check it out. All right, guys, let's do questions. Let's do comments. Let's talk. We got a few minutes, and then maybe we'll go to Discord and hang out a little bit tonight because I haven't done that in a while. I know, Callum. I know. Yep. Callum was reminding me because I've got some I've also got some really cool Wagner Group patches that are from Ukraine, which is nice because basically, trophies, so to speak, the Ukrainians call it, but meaning they're Wagner patches from Wagner guys in Ukraine, meaning they were beaten by the Ukrainians. And I should be getting them in the next week or two if I haven't gotten them already. They're in Washington, D.C., but I need to put them up for auction soon because at least in the UK, if they become a terror group in the UK, I can't auction them in the UK. So, and if they become a terror group here, I can't auction them here. So, we'll see. But there's some really cool patches. Yeah. Yes, I'm offering 500,000 for Russian helicopters. Exactly. Yes. We're actually that would be kind of fun. We could raise the money. Thank you, Dawn. Actually, you know what I was thinking of, Velika? I was saying it would be fun if we started donations for somebody to arrest Putin. Basically, put out a contract to have him arrested. We wouldn't want to say anything, no death, but just arrest, but to arrest Putin and send him to The Hague for war crimes. And all of us contribute. If there was some way to do a mass contribution thing, imagine where we all could put in, I'd put $5 or $10, right? And imagine like raising $100 million to give somebody a bounty. That's a bounty. Thank you. That's the word. It's like not a contract, but a bounty on Putin's head for $100 million would be so cool. But I don't know, like you almost would have to use Bitcoin or something. You almost have to use, because it reminds me hearing Mark Cuban talk about, or the crypto people talk about, what do you call the contracts that you can do with crypto? I don't want to get into crypto right now, but there's some kind of a contract that's like a conditional provisional contract. So it would be like, I'm giving you the money if somebody finds a smart contract. There you go. If someone were to find him and we deem the person eligible, then boom, it hits all of your accounts and the $5 you committed goes. And if it's a contingency, exactly. And if the contingency isn't met, your offer will never be given. We will never take your money. But if the contingency is met, it guarantees take your money. And that way, we also don't collect $100 million and then run off to Aruba, right? Anyway, would that not be cool? I just think that would be so cool. Be so cool. You could auction an empty box and surprise the winner with Wagner patches. Well, you know what that reminds me? That's kind of funny. That reminds me of like in Washington, D.C. I don't know now. Now I think might be the same thing. I'm not sure. I think you can like smoke marijuana, but you can't buy it or something. And what the the stores that do it basically are doing, or they were doing at least before the law changed, you would buy a t-shirt and as a gift, they would give you, marijuana basically. And they would legally pretend like, oh, I didn't sell it. I was just giving you a gift. And it was always like, yeah. So yeah, I would be careful about that. If the UK bans it, then I'm not auctioning it to people in the UK. Yeah, I like to play it safe with that kind of stuff, Wilson, just to be safe. And I don't want poor Callum to go to jail. You can do both in Illinois. There you go. Your kitten really likes me. Oh, that's nice. Well, you can't send a picture here of the kitten. You can send a picture on the Discord. I would love to see your kitten. That's cute. That's cute. All right, guys. What else we got? So yeah, questions. Oh, the stream airs on LinkedIn with subtitles. How interesting. Oh, thank you, Carrie, by the way. That's interesting. Now I know I haven't seen this before, but on YouTube, on TikTok, there are now subtitles, right? I pushed the button that allows it, that supposedly there's automatic subtitles when I do the show, which is really cool. Am I right? Or what, for TikTokers? And is it ever accurate, or is it just crazy? Initially, I didn't like them on my videos because once it claimed that like war broke out in Korea, that Russia attacked Korea or something. And I was like, okay, this is ridiculous. Then sometimes they are, but sometimes they don't. Funny. No, I okayed it. Interesting. Yeah, no, I thank you, Rach, and for the hearts and the fingers and the finger, the finger heart. Interesting. Yeah, no, I turned it on, but who knows? Thank you, Bonnie, for that. But yeah, it must be a sometimes thing, which is typical TikTok, right? Sometimes it works. Thank you to NW or WNH. Yeah, no, I've got the box clicked. They should be there. What else we got, guys? Other questions, topics you want to talk about with regards to the war? Any of this? Interesting. Yeah, I'm going to look again as I'm talking to you guys right now, just because I do like. Oh, thank you for that. Who is that? Was that Nathan or who is that? Oh, sorry, I got two gifts there. Wait, that was Nathan with the heart. And Happy Beach to the Giant. Thank you, Happy Beach. Let me do a quick look and see on the subtitles if I can see the setting. Hold on. Comment settings. It shouldn't be that. Nope. That's comments. Moderators, rankings, muted accounts, blocked accounts. Okay. So it's not that. Flipped gift, subscription tools. Interact, maybe. Nope. Not interact. Support, pause, mute, no. About me, hear your voice. I don't know, guys. Yeah, there was a button. I'm sure there was a button here. There was a button here. I'm not seeing it now. Weird. Okay. I don't know. I'll have to look in my TikTok later and see. That's very strange. Very strange. Yeah, but I'm streaming on TikTok exclusively on my iPad. So TikTok is my iPad. And then I stream on the other platforms via my laptop. So TikTok is working just as TikTok right now. It's like I said, it's my iPad. Not a question. Kelly says today is the 20th wedding anniversary of the Zelenskys. Oh, that's nice. I didn't know that. I had not seen that. Thank you for saying that. Or for note. Whoops. Ah, what did I do? Sorry. Oops, sorry. I was trying to push my make my screen brighter on YouTube, and all of a sudden I put my computer to sleep. I was like, ah. Wait, you guys can still hear me, I hope, on YouTube. TikTok, I know you can. YouTube, I put you to sleep, hopefully. Although I am seeing that suddenly it got very pixelated on YouTube. The internet connection is being weird at my mom's today, unfortunately. There we go. Okay, thanks, Annie. What else is going on, guys? What else is going on? I will do a brief recap. At the very end, I do the recap. Yep. And yeah, I will. You know what? I think in a minute or two, let's see how we do here. In a minute or two, I think we may go over to Discord and hang out for a little bit. We hang out on Discord. There's a section there. It's my Discord, discord.aravosis.com. And there's a section door there called, what is it? John's After Party, I think, towards the top. And we go afterwards. You got to turn up your volume so you can hear me. Everybody else communicates by typing because there's often like 50 people, so we can't have everybody speak. But it's fun. We hang out for a little bit until I get hungry. Thank you, Super Hornet. Yes. What happened, Bay Area, Keith? I mean, I might as well summarize a little bit right now. So one of the top stories, there were two big top stories today. One is that the Russians attacked a Ukrainian market and killed at least 17 people, injured 32. They killed a little child, among others, and they basically just blew up a market full of people 2:00 in the afternoon when everything was really crowded. One of the big stories today, which is the one I sort of titled for the show for you guys on all this, is the Romanians are now admitting that it appears two Russian attack drones did in fact crash and blow up in Romania. Now, let me be more precise. The Romanians are saying it appears that they have found the remains of drones, and it may be that they are Russian drones. And if they did, the Russians incurred on their territory in a very serious situation. The Romanians were denying this the last 2 days. They were basically suggesting the Ukrainians were lying the last 2 days. And today, suddenly, the story turned 180 degrees and the Romanians got very, very ticked off at the Russians. So that's the story. Now, the good news, so to speak, is no one is going to war over two Russian drones that have a mishap. Okay. Now, I would say, I'm a lawyer as well. And one of the problems you get in the law is you can say, we didn't mean for our drones to attack Romania, a NATO country. But you were warned, Russia, several months ago, that when you were attacking Ukrainian ports that are on the Danube River, that are literally right across the river from Romania, you are literally attacking, Daniel, I'll get to that in a sec. You are literally attacking a country that is a couple hundred feet away from NATO. You are in risk of attacking NATO. And we warned the Russians. They basically said, go F yourself. And what did they do? It looks like the Russians may have now literally attacked NATO. There is there's not even an argument to be made here. The Russians are responsible for an attack on NATO. The first time thank you, Timothy. The first time they were warned, had they accidentally hit NATO, they could have said, oh my God, we accidentally hit NATO. They were warned for coming way too close, and they said, screw it, we're going to do it anyway. That makes them negligent. It means they assumed the risk and said, we don't care if we attack NATO, in essence, with our drones. And they did it. It looks like they did it. And that is a much more serious offense than simply saying, oh my God, we're so sorry, our drones went off course or whatever, right? Or they blew up and, whatever they did over your territory. But when you've been warned about the fact that you're being reckless and you do it anyway, now you're reckless and now you're responsible. The problem is, I don't think NATO will do anything about this, and they should. They should put more troops on the Romanian border. They should put more weapons. They should put more anti-air, maybe, a thing, basically something to make the Russians pay a price that there's now more NATO stuff in the area, right? And we haven't done it. I was saying, for example, what we should have done is we should have said, okay, you just attacked a NATO country. You did it negligently or recklessly, but you just did. As a result, we are going to punish you. And the punishment is going to be that we are going to give Ukraine the ATACMS missiles that they have been asking for forever. These are the longer range missiles that work on the HIMARS, and that we, the US, have been refusing to give Ukraine. And now we're going to give it to them because you were reckless and you attacked NATO, even though you said it was a mistake. You knew you were going to do it, and you did it anyway because you didn't care. So that's what you do. You make them pay a price. And I would say we never make Russia, not never. Obviously, we're giving Ukraine weapons, which Russia's paying a price, but we don't make them pay a price for their sort of outrageously bad behavior. We just don't. And I don't know why. I just don't know why. Thank you, Debbie, for the hanging lights. So Daniel had a question. Daniel, good to see you. What are your thoughts on the Polish general? Okay. I don't know of this general. Don't be mean, Daniel. The Polish general Raymond Andrzej, I'm going to say Andrzejak. That's what I'm going to say. Andrzejak, advocating for NATO and the Americans to be more stern and hawkish with Russia. I've not seen that. You could have a guess. That's interesting. You know, yeah, and I always sort of try to preface this by saying that I am no fan of Russia. Okay, but did I butcher it? Wait, did I butcher it? It's Andrzej. That's like Andre. It could be Andrzej. Zejczak. So Andrzejak. That's what I'm going to say. Andrzejak. Am I even close or not? I must know here. Thank you, Kanowski, for the duck. Aflac. Somebody better tell me. I want to know, because I don't think I'm that. Polish names are hard. I don't think I'm that far off. Am I that far off? All right, somebody let me know. So with regard to like Russia and the US being, Dutch, forget it. Yeah, being harsher. Don't even do that. Give me food. Don't even go there. I am no fan of Russia. Okay. But the reason I think we should be stern with Russia isn't because I'm no fan of Russia. It's because I think Russia tends towards dictatorship. They did it during the Soviet years. They did it before the Soviet years. They did it after the Soviet years. They had about 10 years where they tried to be free, and then they went back into crazy land again, right? And I don't think, and Putin is the classic dictator. I don't think Putin understands anything other than strength. So that it's not, let's be strong to Russia because we're tough guys. That's not why you do it. You do it based on strategy. Should be pronounced like Anshe. Okay. So you don't say the dr, Anshe. Well, that's what I mean. The JZS, whatever, is sh, I would assume, from my somewhat knowledge. I had a Polish teacher in high school, and he had one vowel in his name, Resh, and it was like WRZCZ. Actually, I don't think he had a vowel. I think it was like WRZCZC or something. There were no vowels in his name. It was wild. But I learned to spell Brzezinski too. So I worked for Brzezinski at one point in graduate school. Daniel's saying, my guess on what, I didn't see your follow-up. Oh, sorry. Daniel had a multiple thing. Russian official communications and messaging have been both but manipulation, gaslighting, bull-faced lies. Yep. But because our side doesn't work on messaging, we will lose the message and the lies. True. My guess on what your thoughts are is that we haven't been as stern on this. I think the best way to fight a bully is to meet them where they are. I think so. And look, I will always say in politics, as probably in business, the same thing. And I piss off some of the advocates this way, some of the activists. I mean, I've been an activist myself, but you don't adopt a policy because it feels good. You don't adopt a tactic or whatever in the campaign you're doing because, again, it feels good or whatever. That's BS. It drives me crazy when people do that. Or my favorite is, like in advocacy in the States, civil rights advocacy, people say, we do it to make you feel uncomfortable. And I'm like, no, you don't. Like, that's stupid, right? I mean, you're not advocating for civil rights to make people feel uncomfortable. You're advocating to civil rights to get the civil rights passed into law. You know what I mean? And making people uncomfortable is not the goal. Maybe your goal is, if you make them uncomfortable, will it somehow, right? In any case. And that's the way I feel with Russia's strategy. I don't want people to say, I think we should be nice to Russia, or I think we should bomb Russia. I want to know with each suggestion why you think that will accomplish the ultimate goal of winning the war, ending the war, whatever. And from the Biden administration, I have not heard a good explanation of why they think a sterner approach with Russia will lead to World War III, because I don't believe it. I don't think the Russians are crazy, right? Russia knows they're weaker than us. They don't want a conventional fight with us. They don't want a nuclear fight with us. A nuclear fight, we all die. Why would the Russians want to die? They don't. A conventional fight, they lose. Why would they want that? They don't. So I have never heard an explanation from the Biden people, for example, I mean, that's my government, so it's the one I know best, as to why we can't be more stern with Russia, harsher with Russia. I don't get it. And as I said, I go back to my theory in politics, which is, tell me what your strategy is or your goal, but then tell me what your goal is, and then tell me why what you're doing right now will accomplish that goal. Don't just tell me it feels good or I don't like it or, whatever. And I'm not getting from Biden a strong enough sense as to why they're not being harsher, because they clearly think harsh is dangerous, nice might work. Nice doesn't work with Putin. I mean, somebody the other day, I mentioned this to you guys before during one of the earlier shows, somebody gave a great explanation with regards to Prigozhin. And they said, perfect example of with Putin. You negotiated with him, you reached a deal, he put the deal down in writing, and then 2 months later, he killed you. like that's Putin. I mean, that's Putin, right? He actually did the deal and then got you to lower your guard, right? So you were more comfortable and happy, and then he killed you. Classic, absolutely classic, so. All right, let me do a quick summary of the news we covered, and then let's go, because I want to, like I said, do a quick, my favorite name to butcher. I don't know, because you don't know that you are butchering the names. I will say, German names are not easy. Dutch names are worse. Scandinavian names are impossible, because I just don't have the background. First names, sure, we know how we pronounce them, right? But Scandinavian names are so not pronounced the way we pronounce them. I mean, like I learned, because I have a friend, Johan, in Scandinavia, which is Johan. They don't say Johan, they say Johan. They also, yeah, that's just weird. They also, what was another one? I'm trying to remember. That was one. Yuan was one, because I thought that was fascinating. And another one, I can't remember now. Some of the ways that we think the names are pronounced, and it's totally different. But their names I find very difficult, because they'll have, like, first of all, the little things on top of the letters like the Germans do. I don't know. Anyway, but I think it's a language you haven't studied. You know what I mean? So like Eastern European names that are Cyrillic, I can guess at, because I studied Russian, I studied the alphabet, but still not totally easy, but Greek, easy, Italian, easy, French, easy, but I've studied Spanish, easy, but I've studied all of those. Dutch, forget it. Anyway, okay, guys, let me do a quick summary of the news, and then let's go to the Discord, okay? It's day 560. Let's start that again. It's day 560, that's much better, of Vladimir Putin's special 3-day military operation in Ukraine. The Ukrainian Internal Ministry has confirmed that, thank you, Pam Pam, that 17 people, including a child, have died as a result of a Russian attack on a shop and market in Kostiantynivka, eastern Ukraine. Romania admits to finding drone parts that may in fact be Russian drone parts. So it looks like the Ukrainians might have been correct, that the Russians did in fact accidentally attack Romania the other day, a NATO ally. We're going to find out. I then did a CNN update about the counteroffensive I thought was very interesting, that basically talked about the next stage of the counteroffensive will be easier than the previous one, but not easy. Thank you, Wayne, for the gift there, right? So it's still going to be hard. There's a lot of mines. There's fewer mines, but there's still a lot of mines. But it looks like the trenches may not be as set up as as difficult a way as the previous trenches. So again, easier, but still hard. Thank you, LBD. So still deadly, but easier, if that makes sense, right? President Zelensky met today with the Danish Prime Minister. The U.S. announced a $1 billion aid package, including $175 million in military aid, which will include depleted uranium rounds. U.S. Secretary of State and the Ukrainian Foreign Minister went to dinner at McDonald's in Kyiv tonight, which was kind of funny. The Brits are in the process of declaring the Russian mercenary group, the Wagner Group, a terrorist organization. And finally, Germany, the Netherlands, and Denmark are in talks over their joint procurement of ammunition to help Ukraine. All right, guys, let's call it quits. Let's go to Discord for a good 15 minutes, okay? So, and then afterwards, I'm going to have dinner with Ma. But thank you for joining us all. This was a good night. We got a good turnout on all the services. You guys were generous with the gifts, I could tell, so thank you for that. And either join us at Discord. If you don't join, I'll make sure I got all the questions. I did. Yep, I got you, Daniel. If you want to join us, like I said, go to Discord, discord.aravosis.com, and then look for John's After Party. And if you don't, come back tomorrow and Friday, every night, Monday to Friday. I do the show at 6 p.m. Eastern. Saturday, I'm flying again, guys. So Saturday, we're not going to do the after party or the Saturday show. I may very well do it Sunday. I think I will do it Sunday morning instead. I'll do it Sunday morning, but Saturday we won't. The wood pan. This is the last wood paneling until November. I'm back in November for, I come Thanksgiving to Christmas again, to Mom's, to New Year's. But up until then, I will be in Chicago for 2 months and then back to the paneling. So. All right, guys, let me hang up, go over to Discord, meet me there for about 15 minutes, all right? John's After Party at discord.aravosis.com. Otherwise, see you guys tomorrow night, 6 p.m. Eastern. Thanks, guys. Have a good night.